Greetings everyone, welcome back to Kadic Reviews. It's been a crazy video game catastrophe on this channel lately when it comes to Kadic, but there's a good reason for it. There's plenty of games to talk about. This one in general is an Xbox One exclusive now. I do have a PlayStation, let me say that, and I have reviewed plenty of the PlayStation exclusives. But one argument that PlayStation fans can make is the fact that Xbox exclusives are limited, but in which their quality so far due to previous reviews has been rather stellar. Forza Horizon 2, Halo 5 Guardians as reviewed here, Killer Instinct, Rise, Son of Rome. Each of these, upon my opinion, would be rated very highly, but there have been a couple of duds, like the Magic the Gathering games and so forth. But one of their biggest exclusives that they announced a few years ago is the subject of today's review, Quantum Break. Sadly, unlike Madden, I don't have any footage that I can give you, and I wouldn't want to, seeing that most of the footage that I would show would be story specific. Quantum Break started out as one part video game, one part TV show. Literally. Xbox created an entire studio dedicated to creating the TV show and got big name talent to do so. Trust me, just look at the credits list. It's rather B to A-list stars all over it. But when Xbox Studios folded, it was up to creator Remedy, also known for their successful horror game Alan Wake, to take the concept and plug it into the game itself. That part is largely a successful transfer. Although the acting isn't going to blow you away, it's about equivalent to a high-end cable show or even more on the medium end Netflix show. The show works really well and the actors do a good job at portraying their roles. In fact, for me, it was kind of a treat to see the TV show at the end of each of the levels. Mainly because the game you're playing to get there needs work and forgot about its fundamentals. But let me explain. Quantum Break is a third-person shooter. I would say cover, but I'll get to that. Based around the idea of time travel. Now, this is what initially woke me up to the idea. You play as one of two brothers. One, William Burke, built the time machine that you're using based on a clockwise counterclockwise manual. You want to go forward in time, you go clockwise. If you want to go back in time, you go counterclockwise. You're playing as the older brother, Burke, who, thanks to an old friend of yours, Paul Saline, has been brought in to run the final test on the working time machine. As most time travel plots would have it, the experiment goes wrong. See movies like the Philadelphia experiment among others for proof of that. As you try to correct the horrible mistakes that will lead to the end of time. No, literally. Time has broken, and it's up to you and your brother's other invention, the countermeasure or CLR in scientific terms, to fix the fracture in time and put time back on track. Luckily, you have time-based superpowers to do so. The story is intriguing with its twists and turns, and it's actually scientific logical base upon time travel, using the Joule's principle. How time essentially works in an endless loop. No matter how many times you've tried to fix an event is an event. And sometimes, via your own actions, you'll be setting those events in motion. Now, this law is used to great effect, but well, I'll admit a little bit too much. Seeing that you're playing essentially as the brothers with meaningful characters in between. One being a super smart computer hacker named Charlie Westcott. You have Beth Wilder, a former employee of the evil corporation Monarch formed by Selene, to actually stop the end of time by using the CLR as a lifeboat, but it predictably goes down a predictable path, among other people. Most notably in the best acted character in the game and in the TV show by the name of Martin Hatch. Leave it to a well-acted black guy to handle the best role in the game. He's looking for a power play to take control of said evil corporation, and is using your character to try to get the job done. Now, naturally, it's up to you to use your time powers and get the CLR back. And the time powers are an impressive use of physics. It's actually the best use of physics on the entire console. Things rewind, fast forward, stutter, in almost a taped rewind sort of way, with this great breaking glass effect. But it's jarring, but logical. And it works for what is happening here, and some of the time-based powers also have great effect. And speaking of those powers, you essentially have 7 of them. Time Vision, essentially your Eagle Vision of sorts from Assassin's Creed. Time Rush, which is super speed through time. Time Stop, which allows you to freeze enemies in their tracks. Time Dodge, which allows you to quickly go from cover to cover, quote unquote. Time Shield, which puts up a proverbial dome blocking all incoming bullets. And Time Blast. Time Blast shooting a souped up Mega Buster style long range shot towards your enemies or you can use it to get multiple enemies dead in your tracks. There isn't a melee outside of using Time Rush, but it's the time-based powers that really harm the game. You see, this game tries to be a cover shooter. In fact, a lot of the combat sections are based around that way. But thanks to the fact that there are no true cover and the fact that you don't have a blind fire button, the idea of staying behind cover doesn't necessarily work out. So, for most of your time during the game, you're running around using either your time stop or time blast or your shield if you need protection to handle enemies. Time rush and time dodge are only used situationally. And when I say situationally, I mean really situationally. The time dodge might as well not even be there because of the lack of cover actually giving you cover. Let alone you can't blind fire. Add to this is the puzzling design choice of them going Resident Evil 4 style controls, meaning you have to aim and shoot at the same time. The aim assist is practically non-present, so you're practically having to do the aiming manually. Luckily for you, the AI is dumber than a bag of rocks. It is easy to defeat, especially once you earn enough colon points throughout the stage, which you can get easily through a beeping sonar-like sound cue and your time vision to upgrade your multitude of powers. There's 90 of these things through the 5-level multiple act stages that you can use to give your time powers more effectiveness, extra activations, and the like. Luckily, each time power has its own individual cooldown, which encourages you to mix the time powers as you see fit. The guns have a pretty mediocre punch to them. Assault rifles take multiple shots, even against the easiest enemies to kill, and heavy weapons, well, there aren't that much. In fact, there are only light machine guns. Don't commit to that much damage. Plus, there's no sniper rifles in the game, too, and the only weapons that are truly effective as they should be are shotguns. You do have a pistol with infinite ammo, but of course, if you don't have the finger speed for it, that will get quickly swapped out for an assault rifle or SMG. And there are also platforming sections that use the time power to get over jumps or to stop things from smashing you in the face. The platforming, though, is unnecessary, considering they often slow down the obviously intended faster pace of the game. Let alone when your character is about 6'2", and seemingly if you were to give him some kind of parkour style control, he could easily leap over or jump on top of most of the vehicles or fences that impede your path. The game goes on a linear direction with no way to shorten the time. You essentially have to do what the game asks. It's way too much paint by numbers when other games of this type are allowing more freedom for you. But on the whole, at least the game has fully committed to its time concept. And if not for some bad design choices with some of the powers, mainly time rush and time dodge, the powers do, in fact, power you up. They feel powerful, and you're living a time-based power fantasy as you should. Although, if you level up your powers in the late game, you'll be mowing over entire groups of enemies, even in those small instances that the powers are turned off for challenge won't weigh you too much of a challenge due to the lack of the AI. But on a more reflective note, if the game were to get a sequel and these powers expanded and used more properly in a shooter, Quantum Break could become an excellent game. Even a turn to first person, I would suggest, much like the Fear games, would also help Quantum Break's overall aesthetic. Collectible information will expound upon the world if you're willing to read, and there are also some subtle Easter eggs back to Remedy's previous work, Alan Wake, for those Remedy super fans to go find out. Plus, there are video and audio diaries that you can collect by picking up the collectibles in the game that will expand the otherwise great story further by using the individual characters and their means and motives. They're actually great listens and great reads. And the story is oddly enough the strongest part of Quantum Break. With or without the TV show, the characters are well fleshed out, given plenty of space and fulfill their roles competently. Mainly Jack and Will and Martin steal the show, but Paul Celine does fall in those typical corporate crazy madman cliches that make him less of a villain. If Martin Hatch were the villain, then you would have a truly educated, smart, and somewhat dark and sharper villain here. But once again, of lack of narrative and gameplay foresight is really what brings this game to a screeching halt. But one of the things that do work is before each episode of the TV show, you are made to make junction decisions by playing as Paul Celine. These junction decisions actually translate perfectly into the TV show and the future game, which allows for replayability for both times. And there are achievements for those achievement getters for making both decisions, as well as collecting all the myriad of incidental or outward information. Although it would be my suggestion for you to pick up as much of this outside information as possible to fully enjoy Quantum Break's story, especially if you're interested in the notion of time travel. Rushing through it, you might end up not getting the point or not massively enjoying it as well as you should. Slow down a little bit and smell the roses, but don't slow down too much. The game's pacing is asking you to act fast in myriads of combat, which is the problem. Third-person shooters aren't usually quick, and they aren't usually designed this way. The game fails because of basic gameplay fundamentals and a lack of understanding what game you're trying to create. The game barely functions on any level. Yeah, I didn't have any crashing or technical problems, thank God, because technically I'm playing this late. But the basic lack of third-person shooter understanding is what brings Quantum Break into a great idea and tech demo rather than a great fulfilling experience all around. Unless you're willing to play through the story as I did, all the way to the final boss who I couldn't defeat, which is the hardest part of the game, by the way, which is the irony of it. You'll find that Quantum Break does have some flashes of greatness, much like The Order. And this game is technically better than The Order because it fully succeeds in building a great time travel based concept and world with characters that you are given enough information about to care and to know, unlike The Order, where everything was kept in secret. By the by, for all the early hype that Quantum Break had going for it, it's still a concept I would love to see again. But due to the lack of proper gameplay fundamentals as a third-person shooter and some of the poorest design decisions that I have ever seen out of an Xbox exclusive, trust me, they're that poor. I can only suggest to you that you give Quantum Break a shot at your own risk. I would rent it or redbox it and beat the otherwise quick 5 to 6 hour campaign. It's not worth any money, and I'm hoping that Xbox understands that this is a perfect Games with Gold candidate. Because that's pretty much what the game is right now, as it is. Hopefully, there's a sequel that will make it better. But for now, sadly, I have to give Quantum Break a 6 out of a possible 10. A great concept that is fully realized, especially through the addition of the surprisingly great television show, the lack of gameplay fundamentals, and understanding of what makes core third-person shooters work, plus a lack of true control over the battlefield is what makes a great idea halt in its tracks, much like the excellent world that is built around it. Until next time, I'm Nirvana Sparkle. Find peace in your own nirvana, and thanks for watching.